Greetings all. Hey, I've been away from the camera for a little while because I really haven't had anything to say. Really, just nothing to say. As usual, the viewers and customers, clients here probably give me more to talk about than I can come up with on my own. I just had a repetitious question or statement come up again today as a client here in the nursery, and we were walking around, and I asked him if he wanted a head of lettuce, well, sure, yeah, he took one, but then he told me, well, my wife won't let me grow that stuff here. Rat Lungworm, he says. I go, oh, yeah, well, agreeably, the panic over this particular pest is well overstated. Yeah, it's not nearly as bad as people make it out to be. I did have a case of it once, and the disease itself, or the parasite itself, you don't want any part of. You don't want any part of the parasite. But staying away from the parasite is really easy to do. Yeah, it's not out there after you. It's not trying to get you. It doesn't even like people. No, it can't live long in us even. That's why we get the headache. Yeah, I mentioned about his wife not letting him grow any lettuce at all. I said, well, come on over here, look at this. See, I grow lettuce all the time. Now, the head I gave him was actually out of the field, okay? And I do grow lettuce out in the field, and I'll get to that next. But let me show you what's going on here. If you take a look over here, you'll see I have lettuce in tubs, all right? But we look off that way over there, you'll see there's a tub with a band of copper around it. This tub right here in front of me next has the band of copper around it. That's the 1 inch there. Further over there, we got the 2 inch, which comes from Amazon. I grow lettuce out in the open garden too, but I use this road tar flamer here. This thing's real hot, propane. Hey, onions are looking great. And I was harvesting this morning, but over here you can see this big open area. That's where I took the flamer. Yeah, I just went out here and flamed all the weeds. I flamed all the slugs. Well, I did at the same time, too. Slugs don't like the flamer. Over here, you see a row of peppers, and we have lettuce right next to the peppers. And it's in really good shape, no slugs. Why? Because I flamed this area before I planted. Later I put down some slug bait, and then I use weed block like this over the areas where I have planted. After I'm done harvesting, I'll take everything up out and I'll put the block over the top of it, and I'll kill everything that's underneath. When I pick it up, I have slugs under there, and so I just go through and I physically control every one of them. The ones on the ground I flame. The ones that are up on the weed block, I cut them in two with a pruning shear. And there's Gracie out here, follow me around as usual, giving me a hand with everything. And then otherwise the garden is looking great, right, Kitty? Yes, it is. There's the kabocha pumpkins over here. There's broccoli and cabbage, and we got lettuce under the broccoli, and in the background there's beans and yacon, and the broccoli is just a monster. Oh, well, past the belief that it's impossible to grow lettuce due to the rat lungworm around here, which is not true. Alrighty. Well, there's also that perennial question that I get it quite frequently. how bad is crime over there? I heard crime's pretty bad over there. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, well, there have been some ratings of this in the past around here, but lately I have recently come across some maps that I had never seen before. This is called crimegrade.org, okay? And it categorizes crime in pretty much every part of the United States as overall crime, property crime, or violent crime. And so, for instance, here we're looking at the picture of the Big Island at the moment, and it has the violent crime up. And kind of strange in a way, because they got some of the most violent crime areas on this map is the areas where absolutely no one lives. I'm not sure how they come up with that. Maybe, oh well, anyway, I guess if you're going to shoot somebody and dump a body, that's where you dump it. I don't know. Anyhow, you can see here it runs from green, okay, all the way on out to red, and that the red is really serious violent crime places. The yellow and orange is a little less, and the greens are lesser yet. And I live over here, and we live in one of the areas of the state where we don't have much violent crime. That's why sometimes I guess I get a little disturbed when I have people ask me, "Oh, what's the crime like there?" Well, it's not bad, but in general, the island isn't good. And as you can see here, areas vary a lot. They have tabs up top over there that you can work with: property crime, violent crime, and so on. You start changing things, and there you can see the maps change. All right. Yeah. Now the map is drawn with straight lines, and crime doesn't follow straight lines. Okay, so you'll see how, like, on one side of Highway 11, there's so much crime. On the other side, there's more crime. You have to kind of use these maps to sort of extrapolate generalities, as far as, like, where I'm at in Mountain View. There's 3 different crime zones that all come together right in that region. And so basically what you got to do is take all 3 and sort of average them out over the region, because the crime doesn't actually follow the street lines that they've drawn it on. So that's important. Now, I've said this before, and this question came up because of someone that Ellen knows, who she'd grown up around. She used to do babysitting for them, who are thinking about wanting to retire here, but they have all kinds of problems, complaints, concerns, and honestly, I think many of the complaints or concerns, as I heard them, were really not the most relevant things. Okay, I was complaining about how it looks like the moon in places, that, and that's true, is because of volcanic island. That's just the way it is, this is not the Midwestern prairies. I've heard about the heat, the humidity. Well, that's an issue at the shore. But as you rise up, it's no longer much of an issue, at least as far as heat. Humidity, as you go up in elevation, becomes a thermal factor when it's cold out. You become hypothermic. I do sometimes. I get my sweatshirt, wrap in a blanket, because the air is moist, and moisture draws heat out of your body 25 times faster than air does. And so when the air is wet, which is always is around here, if it's cool, it can make you very cold. Now, if you're in Hilo in a hot afternoon in August and it's really humid, it gets pretty stuffy. If the trade winds aren't blowing, it gets pretty stuffy. But then again, we got trade winds around here, and the trade winds tend to blow most of that away. We don't really feel it. So, as far as temperature, humidity, and that sort of thing, do not get locked in because you've been in one particular area, or heard from somebody who was in one area who said, "Oh, I was really humid and hot." it probably was where they were at, but that doesn't mean that you have to experience that if you're living here, okay? Because there's snow up on the mountain right now. The soil's still frozen, okay? We have all sorts of different climates. We have desert climates in the far northwest on this island, and we have rainforest climates on the eastern side, and pretty much everything in between. Yeah. But in general, problems with property increase here as price drops. As I've said before, there is no such thing as a deal on real estate in Hawaii. Occasionally you get a little better than others or whatever. There are situations. But in general, if the price is low, the property is also got some sort of problems. It's either really remote or it's solid hard rock. It's next to a meth lab. It's in an area where people are farming fighting cocks, and they're crowing all night long. I don't know. I come up with a whole bunch of reasons. The lava zones are one of the first questions that everybody should be asking themselves when you're talking about buying property here. I'd say the lava zone's number one. The crime levels in some areas are number two. And now, you can usually dictate the crime in a certain area by the price. Yeah, the cheaper the land, the worse the land usually, and generally the worse the neighborhood. The more expensive the land, generally the more usable it is. There's more things you can probably do with it more easily, and you will find that the people in your neighborhood are probably not quite as crusty as they are in some of the cheaper, poorer neighborhoods where people are underprivileged. They see things that others have and they really want them. They don't know how to get them, so they swipe on them. It's like that. Property values and desirability of locations go hand in hand here. Yeah, they do. You see a cheap price, run. Yeah, don't be drawn to cheap prices. I have told almost anybody who ever asked, put all your things you need on a list of parameters when you're shopping, and put price somewhere in the upper half. Don't put it at the bottom of the list. A lot of people will put it at the very top of the list, okay? And you don't want to do that either, because if you put it at the top of the list, that's your primary criteria for determining what you're going to buy. It's cheap, and so I'm going to buy it. Well, you're buying cheapness. You're buying problems ordinarily, yes. You're going to find yourself sitting right on top of lava zone, or many other undesirable things. But price dictates quality pretty much on property in Hawaii. The more you pay, the better your property. I got some special property. This property I live on here for the general area is particularly good. Yeah, it's, way up in the 80th percentile of how nice it is your land. What's it got, What can you do with it? But I paid probably about twice the price of parcels in the general area. Yeah, at least twice. You get what you pay for. That's the way it is. So, yeah, other than worrying about, crime rates and accessibility to services and things like that, especially if you're retiring, you want to be near the markets. You want to be near the doctor, okay? You want to be close to the hospital. Cheap land is going to put you way out back someplace in the Tuoles. Yeah, and then something happens, like I had a blood clot over here one day and we had to get me into the emergency ward to get that fixed up. Well, we got in there darn quick from where I live. Okay, I'm 0.2 of a mile off the main highway over here, just far enough that it's fairly peaceful, pretty quiet. I don't listen to semis too much from here. But we can get out of here real fast, and we did. And that's a real important factor. Even if you're young and healthy, you never know when you're going to accidentally wound yourself with a machete or something, and you're going to need help. And the further out back you are, the harder it gets. And the cheaper land is always way out back. And way out back is usually where the guys that don't want to see anybody are hanging out. Now, most subdivisions have a top and a bottom, and a lot of the subdivisions, the bottoms end in no man's land. In other words, there's nowhere to go from there. It's way out back. It might be 15 to 20 miles back, and then ends at the lava flow. There's no roads, no people, no nothing beyond that. Well, that's when you get into those areas where you're way out back, is usually where most of the cockroaches want to hang out too. Yeah, that's where you find the meth labs. If you don't like Pacololo farmers, you don't want to be back there, because they probably where they grow most of the pot, and so on. That's most of the most under the counter type activities that go on usually happen in the furthest out back in any of these subdivisions. The only exception to that is when the subdivisions hit the ocean. Yeah, so like subdivisions like Hawaiian Paradise Park, for instance, runs from Highway 130 all the way out to the Pacific. And, of course, the most desirable property, the most expensive property in that subdivision is the furthest in, because it's on the water. That's why. Okay, there you go. I finally come up with something to say, just because I got people asking me about shopping over here, and I got people telling me that their wife won't let them grow lettuce because of the rat lungworm. So that gives me a thing or two. And this here website, I'll put the link into the text below. All right. So if you're interested, you don't have to ask me, Bill, what's the crime like in your area? You forget to ask me that stuff. You just go on here and look at these maps. Oh, well, y'all hang loose.